Welcome back to another video, and let's just do something. Alright, so uh, let's just get to work. Alright, okay, these are the Microsoft Edge updates. You've opened your PDF to the last web page, so here we go to settings. Alright. Now, where were we? We were somewhere over. Alright, so we did this. We installed Pygame, I guess. Did we install Pygame last time? Well, let's just continue from here. Pygame does not come with Python. Like Python, Pygame is available for free. You'll have to download and install Pygame, which is as easy as downloading and installing the Python interpreter. In a web browser, go to the URL this and click on the downloads link on the left side of the website. Alright? Yeah, alright, and click on the downloads link. This book assumes you have the Windows operating system, but Pygame works the same for every operating system. You need to download the Pygame installer for your operating system and the version of Python you have installed. You do not want to download the source for Pygame, but rather the Pygame binary for your operating system. Okay, no, not the source, but the binary. For Windows, download Pygame 1.9.1. Win32 i3.2.msi file. This is Pygame for Python 3.2 on Windows. If you installed a different version of Python, such as 2.7 or 2.6, download the .msi file for your version of Python. The current version of Pygame at the time this book was written is 1.9.1. Wow. The current version of Python. At the time this book was written. If you see a newer version on the website, download and install the newer Pygame. For Mac Operating System X, download the .zip or .dmg file for the version of Python you have and run it. For Linux, open a terminal and run sudo apt-get install python-pygame. On Windows, double-click on the downloaded file to install Pygame to check that Pygame is installed correctly. Type the following into the interactive shell. Let's do that. Alright. So, yo, we got an update on Visual Studio Code. Alright, agent sessions view has permission control for agent tasks. Whoa, OpenAI codecs into integration? That is so cool. Terminal panels and chat custom agents and handoffs. MCP, auth support. There's so much to try. This is so cool. But what we're gonna do right now is we're going to open up some stuff. This is the Django stuff, not right now. What is this? What? Import Pygame. Alright. Let us go to the shell and import PowerShell and import Pygame. What? Interactive shell. Hold on. Can we try this in the interpreter? Pygame version. Well, that is weird. Did we not install Pygame the last time? Did we not do that? It is 3.12 right now. Switch to 3.14. Python dash version. Pygame dash version. Yeah, hold on, let me. What is the command for it? There it is. Set Python version. Alright. Set dash Python version 3.1. No. 2 is good. 2 is good. We need to work. What? Oh, I need to run that. Okay, dot profile. Dot dollar profile. Alright, here we go. And now we can set the Python version. .12. Python version is 3.12, and let's switch this to 3.12 as well. How do I check what stuff I have? What stuff I have installed in a particular version of Python and VS Code PowerShell. Okay. Python dash then list installed packages. Python dash m pip list. Python dash m. Let's see what we have installed in this. So we have Pygame and pip. So Pygame is already installed. I have Pygame installed, but how do I verify with a command? Alright, so that is the command that worked. Show Pygame. Python-m. Show Pygame. Pip show Pygame. Alright. Yeah, it is installed. So we can move on to we can move on to making the stuff. If nothing appears after you hit the enter key, then Pygame has successfully been installed. Where do I use this? Interactive shell. I don't know what kind of shell this is. Am I making a mistake? I mean, I know that if I just import Pygame over here, right, that's not going to give me an error. But like it says over here that type the following into the interactive shell, right? This is a file, and the shell is down here. This is the PowerShell. It works over there. I mean, it's supposed to work over there. Why would I even type this in a shell? Maybe there's some sort of shell that I'm not aware of. If nothing appears, alright. If the error import error no module named Pygame appears, okay, we can try that. So it's most probably over here. Import Pygame, and then I'm just gonna save the file. Hold on. Cool project? What was this? This is the Django tutorial. Oh, this is also Django. I don't know. I don't even remember what this was. I'll have to watch my own videos to try to remember what this was. Cool project. So, Visual Studio is getting updated. And I don't seem to remember what this is. Was this part of the video? Alright, now. Okay. Anyway, let's just open Visual Studio Code again. So import Pygame and save it somewhere. So I'm just gonna save it over here in the downloads. Pygame stuff. Random, hold on, random Python file. And if you try to run this, first let me check what Python version I have. Alright, did it run this? Import Pygame. Alright, there we go. It is working. What's SDL 2.28.4? I'm going to get into that later. So, how to use the book. Making games with Python and Pygame is different from other programming books because it focuses on the complete source code for several game programs. Instead of teaching you programming concepts, hold on. Is this? Let me just test this out. I don't want to get muted in the whole. Alright, so instead of teaching you programming concepts and leaving it up to you to figure out how to make programs with those concepts, this book shows you some programs and then explains how they are put together. In general, you should read these chapters in order. There are many concepts that are used over and over in these games, and they are only explained in detail in the first game they appear in. But if there is a game you think is interesting, go ahead and jump to that chapter. You can always read the previous chapters later if you get ahead of yourself. The featured programs, each chapter focuses on a single game program and explain how different parts of the code work. It is very helpful to copy these programs by typing in the code line by line from this book. However, you can also download the source code file from this book's website in a web browser. Go to the URL and follow the instructions to download the source code file, but typing in the code yourself really helps you learn the code better. Downloading graphics and sound files. Well, you can just type in the code you read out of this book. You will need to download the graphics and sound files used by the games in this book. Alright, here it is. Open link in new tab. Alright. Make sure that these image and sound files are located in the same folder as the .py-python file. Same folder as the .py-python file. Otherwise, your Python program will not be able to find these files in the same folder as the .py-python file. Line numbers and spaces. Sound files and graphics. What? None of this stuff doesn't work anymore? Alright, making games.zip. We got that. The resource page for making games in Python or Pygame, that's the book. Or download all the files in the Pygame book. So Pygame book is probably this, and this is all the files in the Pygame book. So it's probably going to have the sound files and graphic files. So we'll continue this later. We need to remember that we need to make sure that these image and sound files are located in the same folder as the .py-python file. Now I need to figure out which Python file is that. There might be a lot of Python files. Line numbers and spaces. When entering the source code yourself, do not type the line numbers that appear at the beginning of each line. For example, if you see this in a book, so there's a variable called number and random.randint, and we're using this what do you call this, a function, right? We're using this function from this module. This is what I understand from this. So from this module, they're using this function to assign a random number for between 1 to 20 to this variable. And if it's 42, that's going to be spam. And then it's printing hello world. You do not need to type the 1 on the left side or the space that immediately follows it. Just type it like this. Alright. Those numbers are only used so that this book can refer to specific lines in the code. They are not a part of the actual program. Aside from the line numbers, be sure to enter the code exactly as it appears. Notice that some of the lines don't begin at the leftmost edge of the page, but are indented by 4 or 8 or more spaces. Be sure to put in the correct number of spaces at the start of each line. Okay, we have to be sure about indentation in Python. Correct number of spaces at the start of each line. Since each character in IDLE is the same width, you can count the number of spaces by counting the number of characters above or below the line you're looking at. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beneath the 5th character we have I, and then 6, 7, 8. Under 8 is N, and the 9th is print P. Since each character in the IDLE is the same width, I don't know what that means. You can count the number of spaces by counting the number of characters. What is meant by same width in this paragraph? Each character in the IDLE is the same width means IDLE uses a monospaced font. A monospaced font is one where every character, letters, numbers, punctuation, spaces, all take up the exact same amount of horizontal space. Examples of monospaced fonts: Courier New, Gonzales, Monaco. This is different from most fonts like Arial or Times New Roman, where I is narrow and M is wide. Because each character is the same width, you can visually count indentation spaces by lining them up with the characters above. Example, the line with if is indented exactly 4 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's true. The line with print is indented 4 more spaces, total 8. Hold on. The line with print, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's 8. Yeah, that is 8 spaces. That is exactly 8 spaces. It's indented exactly 8 spaces. And on the 9th, the character starts. Since the font is monospaced, when you look at the I in if, it lines up with the indentation spaces below. Let me check that out. Oh. When you look at the I in if, yeah, this is it. It lines up with the indentation spaces below. It actually does. Yeah, that's true. It's actually lining up with the indentation spaces below. Same width means the text editor uses a font where every character has identical width, which makes indentation easy to count. Yeah, I understood it generally. Tell me again, so it's totally clear. I get it. So what I understand from this is that all the characters have the same width. Each character has the same width. So if they have the same width, then we can actually count the number of spaces easily, because there is no difference in the width of each character. If there was a difference in the width of each character, we would not be able to count the indentation accurately. But since everything is the same, the width of every character is the same, we can actually count the indentation. This is what I understand from this, so that we can count the spacing. It means the text editor uses a monospaced font, where every letter, every number, every punctuation mark, every space all take up exactly the same horizontal space. Okay, same horizontal space. I totally get it now. That is why they're of the same width. That is why they take up exactly the same horizontal space. Because all the characters line up perfectly, you can use the characters in one line to count the spaces in the line below. You see, you can use the characters in one line above to count the spaces in the line below. That is true, like this. For example, I'm going to count how many spaces, I'm just going to type this, or random stuff. I want to count how many spaces are before. I want to count how many spaces are in this line before G. So what I can do is 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold on. How do I make this thing ignore it? Alright, there we go. So look at this. So 1 is the I, 2, and then 3. You know, because, hold on. And then give it a ignore. Suppress the warning. Okay, so I want to count how many spaces I have before this H. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, let me also type stuff here. Alright, there we go. So before H, before H, how many spaces do I have? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, come on. 5, 6, 7, and 8. There are 8 spaces before H. So now you know that because all the characters are of the same width, they have the same width, same horizontal space, we can actually count the number of spacing. This is very beneficial. And how many spaces do I have? Look. How many spaces do I have before this thing? Well, I need to count these spaces. What I can do is just 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 spaces before ASD triple G. So, that is so cool. So this is monospaced font, and what is the reason? Everything is of the same width because the IDLE is using a monospaced font. So does that mean that Visual Studio is using a monospaced font? I don't know, but I get the concept. This makes it easy to count indentation spaces visually. I totally get it now. We can count the indentation spaces. So, for example, in the code below, you can see that the second line is indented by 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yes, 4 spaces. The second line has 4 spaces. I'm using the above line to count the spaces on in the line below. Because the 4 character WHIL, yes, this is it, on the line above are over the indented space. The third line is indented by another 4 spaces. This is the third line. So that means 8 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the P is the 8th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 spaces, yeah. 4 plus 4, 8 spaces. The 4 characters, if n, yeah, are above the third line's indented space. Above the third line's indented space, yes. If n. You might be wondering why there are 4 characters. So I is the first, F is the second, the space, there's a space, so that's the third, and N is the fourth, so that means 4 characters. These are above the third line's indented space. Text wrapping in this book. Some lines of code are too long to fit on one line on the pages in this book. Okay, so simply put, the code is too long to fit on a single line. And the text of the code will wrap around to the next line. When you type these lines into the file editor, enter the code all on one line without pressing enter. And the text of the code will wrap around to the next line. Oh, this is what it's called, wrapping around to the next line. I get it. Because the code is too long, it's not going to fit on one line. So what's going to happen is the text of the code, all this stuff, is going to wrap around to the next line. Yeah. It means it will just go to the next line. When you type these lines, alright, just type them in one line, okay. You can tell when a new line starts by looking at the line numbers on the left side of the code. Yeah, this whole thing is just one line of code. But since it's not going to fit on the page in the book, it has wrapped around to the next line. For example, the code below has only 2 lines of code, even though the first line wraps around. Yes, if you look at this, it actually, you would actually think these are 3 lines. Well, they actually are 3 lines, but based on this, they're not 3 lines. They're just 2 lines of code, and the first line of code has been wrapped around to the second line, wrapped around to the next line. So it's just 2 lines, you see, of code. Checking your code online. Some of the programs in this book are a little long, although it is very helpful to learn Python by typing out the source code. or these programs, you may accidentally make typos that cause your programs to crash. It may not be obvious where the typo is. You can copy and paste the text of your source code to the online diff tool on the book's website. The diff tool will show any differences between the source code in the book and the source code you typed. This is an easy way of finding any typos in your program. Copying and pasting text is a very useful computer skill, especially for computer programming. There is a video tutorial on copying and pasting at this book's website. Alright. The online diff tool is at this webpage. There is also a video tutorial on how to use this tool on the book's website. Alright. There is a lot that you can learn about programming, but you don't need to learn. There is a lot that you can. Alright. There are several times in this book where you might like to learn these additional details. Hold on. There's a lot that you can learn about programming, but you don't need to learn all of it now. There are several times in this book where you might like to learn these additional details and explanations, but if I included them in this book, then it would add many more pages. If this larger, heavier book accidentally fell on you, the weight of these many additional pages would crush you, resulting in death. Wow, that is so funny. Instead, I have included more info links in this book that you can follow on this book's website. You do not have to read this additional information to understand anything in this book, but it is there if you're curious. These and other links have been shortened and begin with this. All of the information from these more info links can also be downloaded from this. Even though this book is not dangerously heavy, please not let it fall on you anyways, alright? Chapter 2, Pygame Basics. Alright, this is what we want. Just like how Python comes with several modules like random, math, or time that provide additional functions for your programs. The Pygame framework includes several modules with functions. The Pygame framework also includes several modules with functions for drawing graphics, playing sounds, handling mouse input, and other things. Wow. So many cool things. This chapter will cover the basic modules and functions that Pygame provides, and assumes you already know basic Python programming. If you have trouble with some of the programming concepts, you can read through the Invent Your Own Computer Games with Python book online at this. This book is aimed at complete beginners to programming. The Invent with Python book also has a few chapters covering Pygame. You can read them online at this. Once you learn more about Pygame, you can view the other modules that Pygame provides from the online documentation at this. Alright, GUI versus CLI. The Python programs that you can write with Python's built-in functions only deal with text through the print and input functions. Your program can display text on the screen and let the user type in text from the keyboard. This type of program has a command line interface, or CLI, command line interface, which is pronounced like the first part of climb and rhymes with sky. CLI. These programs are somewhat limited because they can't display graphics, have colors, or use the mouse. These CLI programs only get input from the keyboard with the input function, and even then, user must press enter before the program can respond to the input. This means real time. That is, continuing to run code without waiting for the user. Action games are impossible to make. This means real-time action games are impossible to make. Real time. What is real time? Continuing to run code without waiting for the user. The thing is, whatever compiler or interpreter, whatever stuff you're using, whatever IDE you have, it's not going to wait for you. Alright, it's just going to continue running the code somewhere, and that means real time. Without waiting for us to give it permission or something like that, I guess. Pygame provides functions for creating programs with a graphical user interface, or GUI, pronounced GUI. GUI. Alright, GUI. Instead of a text-based CLI, command line interface, programs with a graphics-based GUI can show a window with images and colors. Alright. Our first program made with Pygame is a small program. that makes a window that says Hello World appear on the screen. Open a new file editor window by clicking on the IDLE's file menu, the new window. Alright, so let's just do that. Remember, do not type the numbers. Hold on. Or the periods at the beginning of each line. That's just for reference in this book, okay. So first we have to import some stuff. Import Pygame, SYS. What is SYS in this? So we know what Pygame is, right? We're importing Pygame to make games with GUI. We don't know what SYS is. You're importing two modules. Pygame is used for graphics, events, and games. Sys is used for system level operations. And why do we need sys here? So you can call sys.exit. This function cleanly exits the entire Python program. When the quit event, closing the window happens, what each line does. Python quit shuts down Pygame. Okay, so this shuts down Pygame. Sys.exit stops the script completely so it doesn't keep running in the background. Okay. If you remove sys.exit sometimes, the Python program keeps running even after closing the window. Oh, okay. So we don't want it to keep running in the background somehow. Sys is a Python module. We need to remember this is a module that lets your program exit properly with this. I get it. Thanks. We're gonna do system level operations, as you can see over here. Where did that go? Yeah, system level functions and information. We need to do all this system level stuff. System level functions, so that we can interact with it, I guess, and use this to exit completely. Now, where did it go? Here it is. Let me just bring this over here. From pygame.locals import this. Let me just first type it. We're importing something from inside Pygame, from pygame.locals. It's a specific place. Import this. Alright, now. From pygame.locals import. What does this also tell me about the symbol? Now we're going into the coding part of this book, which is so cool. This line means import everything, all the constants, functions, variables from the module pygame.locals. Import everything. So you can use things like quit, key down, k_escape, etc. without writing pygame.locals.quit. Okay. So we can use all this so that we don't have to keep writing this. Now you can write if event.type is equal to quit is equal to quit. Oh, because quit is inside this. Okay. Instead of writing this whole thing. It is a module in Pygame that contains constants used for events and keyboard mouse inputs. What is inside pygame.locals? We have the quit, key down, key up, mouse button down, k up, k down, k space. Alright, full screen. These symbols represent different types of event or keys. What does the symbol mean? This is a special Python import symbol, meaning import everything from this module. Import all public names from pygame.locals into the current file. This can cause name conflicts, harder to read code. You don't know where a name came from, messy namespace. Two modules define the same name. Yeah, that is... Yeah. The safer version is import... Okay. So specify what you want to import. Otherwise, there's going to be naming conflicts. There's going to be two modules that are defining the same name. Harder to read code. You don't know where a name came from. Okay? Messy namespace. It contains important Pygame constants. If this imports everything, it lets you write quit instead of pygame.quit. Also, I had a question. What is this symbol called? Like asterisk or something? I actually forgot the spelling of this. Asterisk. Oh, okay. Pronounced asterisk. Asterisk. Very nice. The symbol, yes, the symbol is called an asterisk. 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 Okay, asterisk. 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 This is called an asterisk. Bro, why does it sound weird? What if I just pronounce it like asterisk? No, that doesn't sound cool. It's asterisk. 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 Alright, enough of that. People also casually call it star, wildcard, splat. But its official name is asterisk. So yeah, asterisk. Oh my gosh. What have you dived into? we were coding stuff, and we got into this pronunciation stuff. Alright, so now I understand. So, and why is it dot locals? Constants. So these are constants. I don't know what constants are. Full screen, space, mouse button down. These look like events. But why are we using a dot here? Because dot means inside this package. It lets Python access modules inside other modules. So Pygame is the package, and locals, which is this, is a module. A .py file inside the package. So to import it, you write this. Yeah, this simply means go into the Pygame package, open the file locals.py and import from it. So locals is also a py file. Alright, I did not know that. And Pygame is a package. Well, we usually casually just call these stuff modules, you know? I get it. Access a function inside a module. In short, look inside this package or module to find something. So inside the package, there is a module called locals.py, which is a py file. And inside that, we're going to import some stuff. We're actually importing everything because of the asterisk. 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 Alright, asterisk. So let's just continue. Alright, so pygame.init. So I've seen this a lot. What is up with this? So this is next. But before before ChatGPT helps us out, let's just try to figure it out, right? So Pygame is the name of the package that we just imported into our program, and then from Pygame we are using init. So my wild guess is this means initialize, right? And since there are brackets, these specific brackets, this could be a function, right? A method, a function that we're taking out from Pygame and we're using it. So this is my wild guess. Okay, first wild guess, it's correct. It is a function because of these brackets, right? You can spot a function if these brackets are here. In the Pygame library, it's a function in the Pygame library that initializes all the Pygame modules. You need to use it. It initializes all the Pygame modules you need to use. So we need to initialize some stuff before we can use it. Before you can use things like the display window, pygame.display, pygame.mixer, font, event, you need to initialize. Before we can use all these things, we need to initialize. So we need to initialize Pygame so it sets up all the internal systems, how it works. This function goes through all Pygame modules and prepares them for use. It returns a tuple, num successful inits, num failed init. Usually you don't need to capture this unless you want to check for errors. Initialize Pygame. Pygame must come before any Pygame functionality like opening a window or playing sounds. Pygame.init must come before any Pygame functionality. Okay. Think of Pygame.init as turning on the power for your Pygame tools. Without it, nothing will work properly. Okay, turning on the power for your Pygame tools makes sense. I get it now. I totally understand. I totally get it now. So let's just do that. Also, there is a space for some reason. So Pygame.init, from Pygame we're using this function called init, which means initialize all the modules before we can use them, turn on everything. And since there's a dot, so that means this function was inside Pygame and we are using it from there. Exactly. Pygame is a module slash package. Init is a function defined inside the Pygame module. The dot means look inside the module, which is Pygame. Look inside Pygame for this function, which is init. Yeah, this means go into the Pygame module and run the init function defined there. Yeah, so I think this is it for today. Yep, this is totally it for today. We'll continue this some other day, so I'll be seeing you in another video. So take care, everybody, and have a good day.